My name is Holly. I am 30 years old. I never thought my life would change like this. I lived in a quiet town near the coast. It was small, and the people knew each other well. I worked at a small office with a few other women. My life was simple. I cooked, I worked, I rested. I was not rich, but I had peace. I met Brian 2 years ago. He came into the office one morning. He was tall and had a warm smile. He said he was from the city and wanted a quiet life. I believed him. He spoke softly, and he made people feel safe. I remember how he looked at me the first day. It felt like something important. After a few weeks, Brian and I started spending time together. We went to the lake, to small cafes, and sometimes just walked around town. He told me I was different. He said he had met many women, but none like me. His words made me feel special. I was alone for a long time before him, and I wanted to believe in love again. After 6 months, Brian moved into my house. It was fast, but he said he wanted a new life with me. I was happy. We made dinner together, watched old movies, and talked late into the night. He worked in another town, so he stayed out 3 nights a week. He said the drive was too long, and he needed rest. I trusted him. One evening, he came home later than usual. His shirt was wrinkled and he looked tired. I asked if he had eaten. He said yes, a quick meal at work. Then he sat on the sofa and closed his eyes. I looked at him and thought, this is the man I will marry. I had no doubt in my heart. But small things began to feel strange. He took his phone everywhere, even to the bathroom. He never let it out of his hand. When I asked to borrow it once, he said the battery was low. Another time, I saw a photo on his screen, a woman with 2 small children. He quickly turned it off. I asked, "Who is that?" He said, "A friend from work." I wanted to ask more, but he kissed me and said, "Don't worry." So I didn't. One Friday, he said he had to leave early. A work call. He didn't come back until Sunday night. I waited, made soup, and watched the clock. I sent him a message. He answered after hours. "Busy, sorry." On Sunday, he looked happy. Too happy. I asked if everything was okay. He said, "Yes, just a good weekend." Then he gave me a small gift. A scarf. It was red with small flowers. He said he saw it and thought of me. I smiled and thanked him, but something inside me was not calm. The next few weeks were the same. Some days he was warm, loving, and sweet. Other days he was cold. He didn't speak much. He spent time in the other room on his laptop. He locked the door when he worked. I started waking up at night, feeling afraid. I didn't know why. I looked at the man next to me and felt like I didn't know him anymore. He was close, but far away. I told myself I was just tired, just overthinking. Then came the day that changed everything. I went to the market on a quiet Saturday. I forgot my wallet at home, so I walked back. When I opened the front door, I heard Brian speaking on the phone. I stopped. I never listened before, but something made me wait. He said, "Yes, I'll be back tomorrow. Tell the kids I love them. Don't forget the school trip money." My heart stopped. Kids? School trip? He laughed. "No, she doesn't know. I told her I work weekends." I stepped back, my hands shaking. I didn't walk into the room. I didn't make a sound. I just turned around and left the house. I walked for almost an hour. My feet hurt. My eyes were wet, but no tears came out. Back home, Brian was already gone. A note was on the table. Had to leave again. Back Monday. He had no idea I heard him. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in bed and stared at the wall. I thought about every lie, every smile, every word. I remembered the photo on his phone, the woman, the children, the late nights, the locked door. It all made sense now. He had another life. He had a family. And I was the secret. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I couldn't talk to anyone. I just stayed in bed. I opened my computer and searched his full name. I never did that before. I trusted him. But now, I needed answers. I found them quickly. A page with his name came up. A photo of him, a woman beside him, and 2 small boys. They were smiling. The woman looked proud. The children looked happy. It was a family photo. It was taken last summer. He was wearing the same shirt he wore to my birthday. I felt like the room was moving. I held my head and tried to breathe. The page said he lived in a city not far from here. The woman's name was Sarah. She was listed as his wife. Wife. I sat still for a long time. The pain in my chest was sharp. I thought I would fall. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. But I didn't. I just sat and let the truth hurt me. He was not mine. I was not his future. I was just a woman he used for quiet, for peace, for escape. I thought we were building a life. He was already living one. With someone else. When Brian came back Monday evening, I didn't speak. I cooked dinner, set the table, and acted normal. I wanted to see what he would say. He talked about work, said he was tired, and asked about my weekend. I just said, it was quiet. After dinner, he kissed my cheek. I felt sick. That night when he slept, I packed a small bag. I didn't know where I would go. I just knew I had to leave. I couldn't share a bed with a man who lied to me every day. A man who looked into my eyes and said, "I love you," while hiding a wife and 2 children. I stood at the door and looked at him one last time. He looked peaceful, like nothing was wrong, like he had no guilt. I walked out and didn't look back. I am sharing my story, hoping they reach someone. Are you there? Are you listening? If so, let me know. Drop a hello or tell me where you're listening from. Just knowing you're here means everything. I stayed at a friend's house for a few days. Her name was Monica. She worked with me at the office. I told her I needed a place to stay for a short time. I didn't tell her everything, just that I had a problem at home. She didn't ask too many questions. She gave me a blanket and a pillow and said, "You can stay as long as you want." Every night, I lay on her small sofa and stared at the ceiling. I thought about Brian's voice on the phone. I heard his words again and again in my mind. "Tell the kids I love them." "She doesn't know." He was calm when he said it. He didn't sound sorry. That hurt more than anything. I thought about going back to my house, but it didn't feel like home anymore. Every room was filled with his lies, his smile, his gifts, his sweet words. They were all fake. I gave him my love. He gave me nothing real. After a few days, Monica said, "Holly, are you okay?" I said, "Not really." She gave me tea and sat with me. I finally told her the truth. She looked at me with wide eyes. "He has a family?" "Yes," I said. "A wife. 2 children." She touched my hand. "I'm so sorry." That night, she made soup and let me cry. It was the first time I cried since I left. My tears came fast and heavy. I couldn't stop them. I cried for the love I lost. I cried for the time I wasted. I cried because I felt small. I called my boss and said I needed some time off. She was kind. She said, "Take care of yourself." So I stayed in Monica's flat and didn't go out much. I made tea, looked out the window, and thought about what to do next. I had some money saved. Not a lot, but enough for now. I knew I couldn't stay with Monica forever. She had her own life, her own space. I needed to move forward, but I didn't know how. One afternoon, I went for a walk. The sky was gray and the wind was cold. I walked past the shops, past the bus stop, past the cafe where Brian once held my hand. I didn't look inside. I didn't want to remember. I walked until my legs felt tired. I sat on a bench near the water. The waves were soft and slow. I watched them and thought about my life. I thought about how fast things can change. One phone call, one photo, one truth. Then I remembered something. Before I met Brian, I always wanted to live in another country. I used to watch videos of women who moved abroad and started new lives. They worked hard. They made friends. They found peace. I used to think, maybe I can do that one day. Maybe that day was now. The idea felt big. Too big. I was scared, but I was also tired of being afraid. I went home to Monica's and opened my laptop. I looked at jobs in other countries. Nothing fancy. Just something simple. Something I could do. I looked at countries where English was spoken. I wanted to feel safe. After 2 days, I found a job in Ireland. It was in a small town. They needed a helper at a local office. It didn't pay much, but they gave a place to stay. I read the post 3 times. Then I sent my name and details. 2 days later, I got a reply. "Hello, Holly. We read your message. We would like to talk with you." My hand shook as I read it. I couldn't believe it. I told Monica, and she smiled. "This could be a good thing," she said. The next day, I had a video call with a woman named Nora. She was kind. She spoke slowly. She asked about my work. I told her about the office job, about how I helped with papers and emails. She said, "That's perfect. We need someone just like you." At the end of the call, she said, "Would you like to come next month?" I said yes. After the call, I sat in silence. I was moving to another country. I was starting over. I didn't know what the future would bring, but I knew I couldn't go back. I didn't want to see Brian again. I didn't want to be near his lies. I went back to my house to pack. I waited until I knew Brian was away. I used my key and walked in slowly. The air felt cold. The house felt empty, even with the furniture still there. I didn't take much. Just clothes, some books, and old photos of my family. I left everything he gave me. I didn't want a single thing that came from him. While packing, I saw the red scarf he bought me. It was still on the chair. I stared at it for a few seconds. Then I picked it up and dropped it in the bin. I left a short note on the table. "I know everything. Don't contact me." Then I walked out. The days passed fast. I got my papers ready. I told my boss I was moving. She was surprised, but she hugged me and said, "Be brave. This is your time." Monica helped me with everything. She even came to the airport with me. We hugged before I walked to the gate. She said, "I'm proud of you." I said, "Thank you for everything." She said, "Write to me. Tell me how you are." I smiled. "I will." The plane ride was quiet. I looked out the window and saw clouds. I thought about my old life. I thought about Brian. But I didn't feel pain this time. I felt something new. Something soft. Something strong. Hope. When I arrived in Ireland, Nora met me at the station. She smiled and said, "Welcome, Holly." She showed me the small room where I would live. It had a bed, a chair, and a window. It was small, but it was mine. My new job was simple. I helped with emails. I answered phones. I cleaned a little. The people were kind. The town was peaceful. I walked every evening and watched the sun go down over the hills. Every night, I sat by the window and breathed in the quiet air. No lies. No secrets. Just me. Alone. But not broken. One evening, I saw a little girl walking with her mother. They laughed and pointed at the sky. I watched them and smiled. Then I whispered to myself, "You are free now." It had been 3 months since I moved to Ireland. Life was not perfect, but it was peaceful. I worked at the small office 5 days a week. I helped Nora with papers and calls. I made tea for the team. I liked the quiet work. I liked the soft sound of the rain on the windows. I liked the way people smiled and said, "Good morning." Each day, I felt stronger. I didn't think about Brian much anymore. Sometimes he came to my mind in small moments. When I saw a family on the street, when I heard a man's laugh that sounded like his. But those thoughts didn't stay long. They passed like clouds in the sky. I let them go. I spent time alone, but I didn't feel lonely. I walked to the small shop on Sundays. I sat in the park on warm afternoons. I read books again. I used to love reading before Brian. I forgot that part of me. Now I was finding it again. Nora invited me to her home for dinner one weekend. She lived with her sister and their dog. They made pasta and talked about small things. I laughed that night. A real laugh. I forgot how that felt. After dinner, Nora said, "You're doing well, Holly. I'm glad you're here." I said, "Me too." One Saturday, I took a bus to the coast. I sat near the sea and watched the waves. The sky was wide and open. I thought about how far I had come, not just in miles, but in heart. I left behind lies, pain, and fear. I built a new life with my own hands. I didn't feel weak anymore. I felt free. One afternoon, I got a message on my phone. It was from a number I didn't know. My heart beat fast. I opened it. It said, "Holly, it's Brian. Please talk to me. I'm sorry." I stared at the screen. My hands felt cold. I didn't answer. A few hours later, he sent another message. "I miss you. I made a mistake. Please come back." I put the phone away. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't feel anything. He sent more messages the next day. Long ones. He said he left his wife. He said he wanted a life with me. He said he thought of me every day. I did not reply. On the third day, he wrote, "I'm coming to find you." That's when I blocked his number. I didn't want him in my life. Not even his words. Not his voice. Not his memory. I sat by the window that night and thought about how easy it was for him to lie. And now he wanted me back? No. I was not the same woman anymore. I was not the woman who waited at home, hoping for love. I was a woman who left, who started again, who found peace in her own name. One evening, I met a man named Peter. He worked at a small farm near the town. He came to the office to drop off some papers. He smiled and said, "You must be new here." I said, "Yes." He said, "Welcome." He didn't ask anything else. Just that one word, welcome. A week later, I saw him again at the market. He smiled and asked how I liked the town. I said, "It's quiet. I like quiet." He laughed. "Then you'll enjoy living here." We talked for a few minutes. Nothing big, just small words. but his eyes were kind and his voice was calm. We met again a few weeks later, then again. Each time I felt a little more at ease. He never asked about my past. He didn't push. He just talked about the sky, the fields, and his dog. We walked once along the path by the trees. He said he liked to walk when the sun was low. I liked that too. I didn't know what would happen between us. Maybe just friendship. Maybe more. But I wasn't afraid. I wasn't looking for someone to fix me. I was already healing. One night, I sat on my bed and looked at the small lamp on the table. The light was soft. The room was quiet. My hands were warm. My heart felt light. I thought about the woman I used to be, the woman who gave her love too fast, who believed every sweet word, who stayed quiet when she should have asked questions, who stayed in pain too long. And then I thought about the woman I was now. She packed her bag and left in the middle of the night. She cried alone on a sofa, but stood up again. She crossed a sea. She found a new home. She looked at the sky and smiled. She was me. And she was enough. I didn't need to be someone's secret. I didn't need to be someone's second life. I was not here to fix broken men. I was here to live, to laugh, to walk by the sea and feel the wind on my face. That night, I wrote one thing on a piece of paper: "You are free now." Then I folded it and placed it in my drawer, not as a memory, not as a message, just as a truth. Because now I believed it, and that made all the difference.